Thank you, Karen.
Good morning, everyone. I am Patrick Crabtree, a retired elementary school teacher who happens to serve as your GAE retired president. I want to welcome all of you to our GAE Retired Day at the Capitol. And I want to remind everyone that while we welcome all public school employees, this event is only for GAE members and GAE staff. Therefore, if you are not a GAE member or part of GAE staff, please sign in by putting your name, personal email address, cell phone number, school system in the chat to Tony Smith. Everyone, please note that you must receive prior permission from the GAE Executive Committee or the GAE Executive Director before recording audio or video of this meeting. Social media posts concerning this meeting shall not contain information about the specific content of the meeting, although the sharing of the general information about GAE and GAE event is encouraged. Please be courteous to other attendees and request their permission before posting photographs containing their images. If you have any questions about social media posting of GAE events, please contact the GAE Executive Committee or the GAE Executive Director. Again, we are so glad you are here today. With that, I will turn it back over to our Vice President, Tony Smith.
All right, Patrick.
Oh, I'm sorry, a land acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Today, we join in one voice to acknowledge and honor the land on which we stand that previously was known as its original habitats as Muskogee, Mis- Miccosukee, or Hitachi. We would also like to honor the ancestral stewards of this land of which we meet today and their descendants living in over 1,000 tribes, nations, bands, pueblos, communities, or native villages. The people who speak almost as many different languages as there are tribes are the contemporary custodians of this land. As we work to reduce the harm to the land, water, and air pollution across this nation, we acknowledge and work to dismantle the ongoing violence and repression of indigenous peoples and cultures, including poor health, indoor and outdoor air inequalities. We would also like to acknowledge the contemporary tribal leaders and their tribal members who could contributions to this land of clean water, its control of, its treatment of, as well as clean air policies, which benefit us all. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Patrick. And now we will have Vivian Brooks, our legislative chair, share our goals. And you should be seeing the goals on the screen. Do you?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. The goals of lobby and learn. During the lobby and learn, I would like for you to read the goals. The goals of lobby and learn. During the lobby and learn, you will learn about the General Assembly, which is Georgia's legislature. Today, you will learn about the value of lobbying. Lobbying has given a voice to educators. It allows them to tell legislators their opinion about legislative issues. Educators have the opportunity to express to the lawmakers the negative and or positive effects that a bill would have on the teaching profession. It allows educators to provide necessary details about legislative issues. Lobbying empowers educators and oftentimes offers big wins for the teaching field.
Thank you, Vivian. Oh, are you not done?
No, not yet. Okay, if it concerns public education, it is worth lobbying for. Lobbying helps to bring about change.
Thank you, Vivian. Now we will hear from our GAE president, Lisa Morgan.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. This is one of our kickoffs. The Georgia legislature will begin session on Monday, so Joe and I will be spending a lot of time at the Capitol. But thank you all for being here. It is very important that our legislators hear from you. A lot of times we think, I know you've all seen that poem about everybody thought somebody would do it, so nobody did it. And that's really very important when you think about contacting our legislators, because a lot of people believe that everybody's calling them. Well, everybody's not calling them. And a lot of times, if you reach out, you are going to be the one person they hear from. And I also encourage all of you, I'm going to go ahead and throw my plug in right now, to join our legislative contact team calls. And the information for the first one will be on your initial legislative update that you'll be receiving Monday. I want every legislator to have that relationship with a GAE member so that they know this person is an educator. And when something comes up, if they haven't heard from me and Joe and they want to hear how educators feel, they're going to have your information and they're going to contact you. I want every legislator to have somebody in their district that they think of when they see a bill about education. So it becomes personal to them. Not that you have a personal relationship, but they know a person that they think about when they hear the word educator. And it's not I'm hoping that can kind of change how they're looking at us. So they know somebody. It's not just this generic educator and they can hear all they've been told about how horrible teachers are, but they know this is a teacher who lives in my district. So thank you all for being here this morning and welcome. And I hope everybody has a great day, and I hope we will see you when we start those legislative contact team meetings as we go throughout the session.
All right, thank you, President Morgan. I do not see Dr. Carter on right now, so we will talk a little bit about why we do this. GAE is different from other organizations that represent educators, and I am going to share some of those differences with you now. I'm sorry, I've got the wrong PowerPoint up. Technology is our friend. Thank you for your patience. All right. Let's talk about how GAE differs from other organizations. Do you see a slide that says a professional path of excellence?
Yes.
Okay. What is the difference between GAE and other professional organizations? GAE is the largest and oldest professional organization representing educators here in Georgia. It is a part of the National Education Association. It was founded in what year, President Morgan?
GAE in 1970.
In 1970, but it was the result of the merger between
Oh,
two other teacher organizations. You want to continue, President Morgan?
yes, I can give you those dates. The Georgia Education Association was founded in 1868, and the precursor organization for the Georgia Teachers and Education Association was founded in 1888.
And
And
those
those are the
two,
two organizations that merged to become GAE.
right, they were segregated and they merged. They merged and formed the Georgia Association of Educators. Let's see, what are you seeing now? I think you're seeing my presenter view, aren't you?
We just see us. Oh, there it comes.
I think you're seeing my notes, aren't you?
No, we just had our
No,
slide. You're good.
we're
Okay,
back to the title, Tony.
all right. GAE provides legal services for its members. GAE does not have a predetermined cap on the amount it expends per defense, while the other organization, that is our competing organization, provides up to $10,000 for legal defense. And GAE provides $3 million in professional liability insurance for its members, while the other organization provides $1 million in professional liability. And GAE uses a mixture of staff attorneys and a referral program for legal services, often through the National Education Association network. And the other organization maintains an in-house full-time team focused on Georgia-specific education law. GAE is the only professional education organization that connects you to the National Education Association, giving you a voice in DC as well as Atlanta. The National Education Association is the largest labor union and professional organization for educators in the United States, representing over 3 million members from pre-K to university levels, advocating for public education and influencing policy through its vast network of state and local affiliates. About 1 in 100 individuals in the United States is an NEA member. And we're local too. So we're able to affect change by attending and speaking out at local school board meetings, advocacy on local, state, and national levels. What is the GAE difference? We have UniServe directors who are your direct connections to the organization, who can intervene when you need representation in your schoolhouse for a meeting. The UniServe Unified Service Program is a statewide network designed to provide professional consultants known as Uniserve directors who bring union resources directly to the local level. The program serves as a bridge between individual members, local affiliates, and the state and national organizations. This QR code that you can scan on your screen takes you to a site where you can learn more about the UDs. What's the GAE difference? It's member driven. We are not a top-down organization like the other organization. Our members make decisions at our representative assemblies every year. We elect our own officers. They are not appointed like the other organization. We have a direct voice in being able to craft our documents and policies, and members vote to approve the budget or can offer changes to the budget, suggestions for changes to the budget. We are a member-driven organization. What's the GAE different? We do candidate endorsements. The endorsement process includes a review of the candidate's record, public records for incumbents. We analyze their voting history on issues related to public education to determine if they align with GAE or NEA positions. Candidate questionnaires after the official qualifying period ends, which for the 2026 cycle is March 2nd through 6, 2026. GAE sends a comprehensive questionnaire to every candidate running for office. This questionnaire asks for their stance on specific issues critical to GAE members. Local associations meet to review these questionnaires and conduct interviews with candidates for legislative office. These local committees provide their recommendations and input to the state level. And the GAE Fund for Public Education, FPE, the GAE FPE, our Political Action Committee, is responsible for interviewing candidates for statewide office, such as governor, lieutenant governor. This committee may spend dozens of hours interviewing candidates and reviewing local input before making a recommendation. The final endorsement recommendations from the GAE FPE are sent to the GAE Board of Directors for final approval. No candidate is officially endorsed until this member-led board votes to concur with the recommendations. For U.S. Senate and House races, the process involves collaboration with the NEA PAC, on which the GAE president sits, with final recommendations sent to the NEA Board of Directors. The endorsement process, GAE does not endorse one political party over another. For candidates to be endorsed, their views must align with those of GAE and NEA, as evidenced by the return questionnaire and through the interviewing process for the candidates. It's not about the R for Republican or the D for Democrat. It's about what is best for public education. What's the GAE difference? Our PAC. Our Political Action Committee, both state and national, provides funds for candidates within federal law requirements that we endorse. What's the GAE difference? GAE is the professional path of excellence for all educators. Now we're going to let Joe talk more about the endorsement process and perhaps tell us what happened with the candidates that we endorsed in the last election cycle, in the special elections in the last election cycle. Joe?
Yes, ma'am. It's been a rather interesting year, probably a record number of special elections for various reasons. A member died, for example. Several have just found the time commitment to be a legislator overwhelming and interfering with their job or families. And then there's a large number that have resigned because if they're currently serving in the state house or state senate and they want to run for another office, they cannot fundraise during the session. So, for example, Jason Estevez, state senator who represents parts of Cobb and Fulton, decided to resign because he felt like fundraising for his gubernatorial race was more important. But we've had a pretty good record here. We flipped one seat that was held by a Republican, is now held by a Democrat from the Oconee County and Clark County areas, Athens, Georgia, Eric Gisler. He beat he won an open seat, but again, it had been held by a Republican prior to that. We lost one in Cherokee and Fulton County with a candidate that we've supported twice, Deborah Shigley. She did lose. This was an incredibly difficult district for a Democrat, very, very red. But she outperformed Trump by 20%. Excuse me. She outperformed the last elected representative for that district by 20%. So we're beginning to see some change here, and I'm hopeful in this election year coming up that we will see a number of independents and even former Trump voters just begin to move. You know, they may have wanted change, but I don't think they wanted crazy change and dangerous change. There are still 3 or actually 4 more special elections to go. One in the Augusta area, one in kind of a wide swath of rural counties, but also including Bibb County, all the way to Henry County, state Senate seat there. Then another representative resigned because she's been indicted on pandemic aid fraud. That's in DeKalb and Gwinnett County. So we have those special elections yet to go. Then also, of course, you may have heard that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned her seat. She resigned on January 5th. There will be a special election on January 20th for that seat. We've had some discussions to try to learn about the candidates there to see if we will ask the FPE to make a recommendation to NEA. It's the 40th most Republican district in the country, and it would be difficult for a Democrat to win that. But there is a Democrat running. But there's also several Republicans who, believe it or not, might possibly even be weirder than Marjorie Taylor Greene. So we'll have to see on that. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. Just to reiterate what you said, Tony, we don't look at the party affiliation. We look at the individual. And we have supported a number of Republicans and of course, Democrats over the years, and I'm sure we'll continue to do so. We're fortunate that we have some good relationships with some of the Republicans, especially in the House. I will mention this, and then I'll let you get back to your regularly scheduled agenda. State Senator Larry Walker, that name may seem somewhat familiar to you. He's a senator from Perry, Georgia. He was the sponsor of the bill that eliminated the cap on the multiplier in the PSERS, which is the state pension plan for school bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, etc. He has been recently elected by his colleagues as president pro tem, which is the number 2 position in the Senate. So we were fortunate to work with him. He was very effective in getting our bill passed. And so we feel like we have a good friend in a high seat, not on all issues, that's for sure, but certainly on this retirement issue and some others. So thank you, Tony. Happy to answer any questions, but I know I have another spot later in the program.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, you'll be back in a few minutes to talk to us about this upcoming legislative session.
Great.
President Morgan, could you share the legislative priorities with us?
Yes, and Tony, I just sent you an email. I have them to share from my screen, but if my computer
Okay.
cooperates this morning, if it does not, I sent them to you if you
Let
can
me
share. I
make
will
you
try
a host.
from mine first. Let's see if it's gonna.
All righty. You should be able to share in just a second. Give it a minute to
Okay.
catch up.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'll open the email.
Okay. Okay. It's being nice this morning. So, these are our 2026 legislative priorities. They were adopted by the GAE Representative Assembly April 27th of this past year, 2025. Our legislative priorities are adopted each year by the Representative Assembly. They go to the floor of the Representative Assembly from the GAE Legislative Committee. The Legislative Committee meets each year, and the committee meets in the fall, and then in the spring after the session they do the final proposed priorities for the following year. The committee uses the information they have available, including polling of our members concerning their beliefs and opinions legislatively, and then the committee sends the proposed priorities to the board and ultimately the Representative Assembly. Any member who is a delegate at the Representative Assembly can make amendments to the proposed priorities before they are adopted. The priorities are divided into categories. And I'll see if I can make it larger because I know there's no way you all can see that. So the first category is salaries. And you will see there that there are things there, a minimum teacher salary of $55,000 and include annual cost of living increases. This is new. Salary increases, including step, extend to 30 years of service, apply salary increases to the state schedule, secure an 8% raise for all of our ESPs, and secure a state pay scale for our education support professionals. That includes steps for years of service. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I wanted to point out on the salaries, you can see that our priorities are inclusive of all our members. And if this is your first time in a GAE meeting, education support professionals are our classified employees that work with our certified employees every day. And we all know we could not have school without them. The next category is enhanced education programs. And this is dealing with funding for our programs and for our students. Pre-K, Hope Scholarship, the preventing vouchers is obviously part of this priority. The next category is supporting educators, and these are the things that will improve our profession so that educators can continue to do their jobs. And included in this one of the things that we are working very hard on is securing paid student teaching practicums for our aspiring educators. And then the next, we also in this one, since GA Retired is hosting us this morning, we also have part of support educators improving retirement benefits for all public school employees, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and maintain the defined benefit plan. Let's see if there's a question. Then our next category is protecting educators. And this one talks about fair dismissal for all public school employees, fair evaluations and grievance procedures. And this is also where we talk about eliminating strategic waivers. And I will be talking to you all about those waivers a little bit later. And then the final category on our 2026 priorities is to strengthen educators. And this is to strengthen the profession by improving the working conditions for public educators so that education will continue to be a profession that our young people want to enter into. And this includes providing induction and mentoring for all beginning public school employees and providing pay for their mentors, and also the voice of educators. This one is last on our list, but I pointed out because it's very important in our current climate. Ensure decisions about curriculum, instructional materials, and strategies are made by certified educational professionals in order to facilitate an honest, accurate, and empathetic education for all students. And that, if you would like a copy of this, it is available on our website. Under the GAE Legislative Issues tab, you can download the actual document. And I would say to you this morning that if there is something in this document that you would like to see edited, strengthened, the chair of our legislative committee is Tiffany Fannin, and I am certain that she would welcome an email from a member about any of the items that are on our legislative priorities. And at this time, if anybody has any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Any questions for President Morgan?
Tony, I just put a link to the URL and the legislative priorities in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you,
so much.
Joe.
Any questions for President Morgan? All right, now I want to make another plug for the legislative contact team. I really, 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 really agree with President Morgan that it is important for every legislator to have an educator as a contact when they have questions or concerns about a piece of legislation that impacts public education. So please watch your emails for the legislative update and become a part of the legislative contact team. All right, we turn now to Vivian Brooks, who's going to tell us what we really need to know about what the General Assembly does.
Okay, the General Assembly is the state's legislature. It consists of the House and the Senate. They serve 2-year terms, and elections occur on even numbered years. The Georgia Assembly begins on the second Monday in January of each year. It meets yearly for about 40 days. The session lasts from January to March, and it may be extended if something occurs. The General Assembly does the following duties. It creates laws, passes the state budget, works through committees, debates bills, votes on bills, and all of the money bills begin in the House. The General Assembly requires identical passage from both houses, both chambers, from the House and the Senate. There's also governor approval of the bills that are sent to the governor's desk. The governor may veto or do nothing, or the Georgia General Assembly may veto the bill. At this time, you will view the legislative process video.
On the second Monday of every year, the Georgia General Assembly convenes for a 40-day session. The General Assembly is our state's legislative body. Located in the capital of Atlanta, it's where state laws are written, debated, and amended. The legislature consists of two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Much of the work in the General Assembly concerns bills. A bill is a draft of a proposed law. It's presented to a legislative body for approval. There are two types of bills, general and local. A general bill applies statewide. A local bill concerns a law at the city or county level. All bills are written to amend the official code of Georgia annotated. This is a compendium of laws for Georgia. In order for a bill to become a law, it has to pass through many stages. First, it's filed with the clerk of the House or the Secretary of the Senate. In Georgia, only legislatures in the House and Senate can introduce bills. However, any bill to raise or spend money must originate in the House. The presiding officers of each chamber take the next step. In the House, the presiding officer is called the Speaker of the House. The presiding officer of the Senate is the state lieutenant governor. After a bill is introduced, the Speaker or lieutenant governor assigns the bill to a standing committee. Standing committees are the heart of the legislative process. A standing committee is a small group of legislators that reviews and considers bills for approval. A standing committee gathers and studies the facts related to a bill. Testimony is heard from experts on the subject. Legislatures who favor or oppose the bill are called to speak. Citizens have a chance to comment on the bill as well. Unlike the General Assembly, which meets once a year for 40 days, standing committees may meet year-round. The committees cover a range of subjects like transportation, education, energy, and agriculture. A standing committee decides the next step for a bill. They have several options. They can report the bill back to the House favorably, with or without amendments. They can report out a substitute bill. They can report the bill with a do not pass recommendation, or they can hold the bill from consideration. Once a bill has come out of a committee, it's put on the rules calendar. Prepared by the Rules Committee every evening during the legislative session, the rules calendar determines what bills will be introduced and when. Presiding officers now present the bills to the chamber. The bills are called up one by one, and debate takes place. Legislative members may come forward to speak at the well, a podium at the head of the chamber, or legislators may ask questions from their desk. After debate, a vote is held. Legislators vote yea or nay through an electronic voting system. A majority of votes is required for passage of the bill. In the smaller 56-member Senate, that's 29 votes. The larger 180-member House requires 91 votes for a bill to pass. Identical bills must pass the House of Representatives and the Senate to become law. A passed bill is sent from one House to another. If the bill is amended by the second House, it is sent back to the House where it originated. That House can accept or refuse the bill. If the bill is refused, it's sent back to the other chamber, and the House that added amendments can remove them or stand firm. If the two houses cannot agree on the particulars of a bill, it moves to the conference committee, which consists of 3 members of each house. The conference committee tries to forge a compromise acceptable to both houses, and then writes a report which is presented to the Senate and the House of Representatives. The last stage of the legislative process involves the executive branch of state government, the governor's office. In general, the governor receives most bills at the end of the legislative session, at which time the governor has 40 days to act on the bill. The governor has three options: sign the bill into law, veto the bill, or do nothing. If the bill is vetoed, it is sent back to the House where it was introduced. The bill may or may not then overcome the veto. 2/3 of both houses must vote for the bill to override the veto. If the governor does nothing with the bill, it becomes law after the 40-day period has expired.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about, Vivian Brooks is going to talk to us about how to find your elected officials. And I am going to share your slides, Vivian. I think you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. How to find your legislator in Georgia. First, you need to go to the website, which is legis.ga.gov, and find your legislator. You need to enter your full address. Okay, so if you would look at the slide right here, you will see that the page, the Georgia General Assembly's finding the legislators page has been updated. And if you will look over to the right, where you will see a red star, there's a section that says finding your legislator, and you will need to enter your full address. Once you enter your full address, then your two legislators will appear on the screen. You may click on your legislators and you will see their contact information. And from there, you can record their contact information. And after the lobby and learn is over, you can email your legislator and introduce yourself to him or her and make sure that you tell him or her that you are a constituent. And after doing that, you can thank him or her for their service. Next, GAE Day at the Capitol. If you decide to go to GAE Day at the Capitol, I have a few tips. Next, Tony.
That slide is not there, so just go ahead and talk.
Okay, then. Okay, if you decide to go to GAE Day at the Capitol, here's some lobbying tips. You may introduce yourself to the legislator when you're over there at the Capitol on the ropes. You are to state that you are a constituent and you are a GAE member. You need to present your talking points. And while you're at the day at the Capitol, President Morgan will give you talking points and other information that you will need to communicate with the legislator. You are to, as I said, present your talking points. You are to tell your story if you have one. You are to make your ask for the legislator to support, oppose, or co-sponsor a bill or issue. After that, you are to thank the legislator for their time and service, and you are to leave a materials packet that you will get from President Morgan on a day of GAE Day at the Capitol. You are to leave that packet of materials with the legislator, and after the GAE Day at the Capitol, you need to follow up with a thank you email to the legislator.
And there's one other way to find your legislator, right, Vivian? You're muted, Vivian.
You may find your legislator at my voter page, which is mvp.sos.ga.gov. And once you go to the My Voter page, you are to enter your personal information, your initial of your first name and your full your last name, and then your birth date. And then the next slide, after you enter that, will be a slide that includes a lot of your voter information. And if you will scroll down toward the bottom of the page, you will find your two legislators. You will find the legislator from the House and the legislator from the Senate.
And you'll also find your polling place and what district you're in and your national legislators. Thank you, Vivian. You've given us a lot of really good information. Vivian has talked to you about how to talk to your elected officials. So we're going to go back to Joe Fleming now, who's going to talk to us about the upcoming session, which starts Monday. Joe, can you hear us? Oh, I don't know if you can hear us. We'll come back to Joe. We're going to go to President Morgan, who's going to talk to us about something that is extremely important, and that is waivers.
Thank you, Tony. And let me see if I can share my screen again. So and we know that all of our members are not familiar with, the waivers. So in 2015, all school systems in Georgia had to choose whether they wanted to be a strategic waiver system or a charter system. And those contracts expired at the end of 2022. In 2022, the first announcement that was made was that the waivers would be extended to every district. They could waive everything without request. We started talking about that at the legislature, and that was clawed back. And so the waivers were renewed. The most recent waiver contracts for most systems were renewed June 13th, 2024. You can go to the website, the Georgia Department of Education website, and see your district's specific waivers. Now, there's like 3 districts that were not renewed for 6 years. And the 2 larger ones that we might have someone here from, Richmond and Bibb, were only renewed for 1 year. And they were renewed again in June of 2025. So you can go to the website to see what your district has waived. The map you're seeing here, the yellow districts are the charter systems. If it's white, they're a strategic waiver system. The two districts that do not have waivers are Webster County and Beaufort City. So every other district, your district has waivers. And I'm learning people think they have a waiver. If they have the waiver, they're saying we're not following that law. Okay. So whatever the law is, and I'm going to go through specific ones that are kind of key so you can see which districts have waived and not waived these things. So these are the charter systems. They have a blanket waiver from all educational law. Okay. So fair dismissal, class size. We'll talk about class size again in a minute. Every law that has been passed, every state board rule, except for a very limited civil rights ones, these districts have a waiver. Okay. You're saying, okay, well, how are they using that? One of these waivers that's on here is a charter system. I visited 3 years in a row. And this system, because they have the blanket waiver, when they had new teachers coming in, they had teachers who have completed their program, their teacher prep program, and are fully certified. They had a next group of teachers who they hired as the classroom teacher who had not completed a teacher preparation program, but had a bachelor's degree in something. They had a bachelor's degree. And then they had another, and they called those charter waiver teachers. Okay. They said, because we have a charter, you can be in the classroom before completing any teacher prep. And then they had another group of teachers that they called interns. And these were students who were in their teacher preparation program. They were not in the classroom as a student teacher with another teacher there with them. No, they were the teacher in the class. They were the teacher. They were the only adult in the room. And the district said they were an intern and was paying them paraprofessional pay, but they were the teacher because they did not have a college degree yet. So they were the intern. So that's how districts are using these waivers. Okay. Charter systems have blanket waivers for everything. If it's in state law, if it's in state board rules, and the local board, the local administration can basically ignore it. The next one, this one, Rights at Night this month. It's January, and some of you may be thinking, Lisa, why are you talking about contract renewal? We moved our Rights at Night to January because previously we were doing it February, March, because districts are issuing contracts. These districts have waived the contract renewal law. So the law says the educator has 10 days to review their contract. If you're in one of these districts, you need to read that letter they send you because you may not have 10 days. They have waived it. The law says if you do not receive a renewal by May 15th, that your contract automatically renews. If you are in these districts, they have waived that law. So they may wait until May 30th or June 7th or whatever date they choose because they have waived the law. It also, the contract law says that They must tell you what your salary will be in the contract. These districts have waived that. So they may put a salary there, or it may be in the very old ages. I remember my first contracts didn't list a salary. GAE got it put in that they had to tell you what your salary was going to be before you signed the contract. But these districts have waived it. One of these that I will point out, and if someone's here from Burke County this morning, I clearly remember when I was going through the waivers, Burke County said they were waiving the contract law because they wanted the flexibility to offer multi-year contracts to educators. My question is, if you work in Burke County, anybody in Burke County getting a multi-year contract? So that's why it's very important that you go read the waiver documents for your county. You don't want to get everybody's. It's a 1,300-page document, and I've waited through it to pull this information that I'm giving you this morning out. But the district you work in is the important one for you to read. These districts have waived all or part of fair dismissal. So if you work in a district that is on this list, they have waived all or part of the fair dismissal law. So you do not have your rights to a charge letter, a hearing, etc. in these counties. Now, some of these counties have waived the law, but for certified employees, they follow the law in certain instances. Or some counties have put fair dismissal policies in place as a local policy, which then gives fair dismissal rights to the employees. For example, Clark County is a charter district, so they have a blanket waiver for fair dismissal. Their local board passed a fair dismissal policy, so they have it in local board policy. Another thing I will point out about this, it's very important. If you see something on here in your district and you're like, why did my district waive that? These waivers can be changed. You will note one county that I'm going to point out, not a county, the city, Rome City Schools is not on this waiver of fair dismissal. They had previously waived fair dismissal, and our local president in Rome City worked with the school board members. She goes to all the school board meetings. She was actually at the school board meeting where they waived the fair dismissal, and they didn't say we're waiving fair dismissal. They told the board, we're just doing some language cleanup. And when Marty went back and said, no, that was waiving fair dismissal. She worked when the contract was renewed in 2024. Fair dismissal was no longer a waiver that the district had in. So these can be changed if you work with your local school board to change it. All 130 school systems that have strategic waivers have waived class size, and the charter systems have blanket waivers. So the only districts, Webster and Beaufort City, are the only districts in the state that are required to comply with the class size law. And we all know that the one thing that has been shown over and over again by research to improve our students' achievement and their learning is reducing class size. Well, all our systems have waivers to eliminate those class size caps, which is the waivers are supposedly in place to increase student achievement. But the one thing that has been shown by research time and time again to increased student achievement has been waived by all the school systems. Next, the teacher salary scale. We have a minimum teacher salary scale in Georgia. You can see there are only 6 districts that have not waived that minimum teacher salary scale. Right now, everybody's okay. Districts are paying teachers the minimum or more. Most districts have a supplement. This will become an issue. I remember during the last recession, there were districts, and my district was one of them, that there were thousands of teachers whose salary was below the state minimum. And the state minimum salary schedule was in place, so the district had to pay the state minimum. Should we have another recession, should we have that happen again, if you are not in one of these districts, then your salary could fall below the state minimum. So that is definitely a concern looking toward the future, and the fact that these are the only districts that have not waived the minimum salary schedule. And you see here, there is only one district that has not waived teacher certification. And once again, I would encourage you to go to the Georgia Department of Education website and read your district's specific waivers. There's one county that literally said in their waiver contract, they are waiving certification for one specific case. They named the teacher. It's a teacher in auto mechanics that does not have a teaching certificate. They explained that the program was very successful, and they were waiving teacher certification to employ this one teacher in this one field in one program. But that in all other positions, they would have certified teachers. These are the kind of things our locals need to know, because is that true? Is that what's happening? And of course, our legislative priorities even say that teacher certification in some of the technical, career and technical education programs might be appropriate. But the question becomes, is that how they're using the waiver? And our locals have to be checking on these kind of things. So unless you teach in DeKalb County, the teachers you're working with may not be fully certified. And we have duty-free lunch and planning time. We were all excited a couple of years ago when we got the planning time, and then boom, here they went, and these districts have waived. I see Misty, she's celebrating Gwinnett County. I would like to point out Gwinnett County, our local there, has won 4 teachers on this issue, because not only have they not waived duty-free lunch and planning time, again, they have a local board policy specifying duty-free lunch for their elementary teachers. So it's not just the state law that says duty-free lunch, but in certain instances they can work around it. No, they have a board policy that says elementary teachers get duty-free lunch every day, period, end of sentence. So those are the kind of things that if you work with your local board and get it put in policy, you have even more ground to stand on to ensure that educators are getting what they need. But once again, Joe and I, we worked very, very hard to get in the law that it couldn't be waived when we won the planning time for every educator K-12. And the legislature wouldn't put it in there. And now you see what's happened. We have 32 districts that have not waived that and are saying we are going to give duty-free lunch and planning time for our educators. The other 98 strategic waiver systems have waived this law. And in fact, these were the ones that made me the angriest as I read all of these waiver contracts, because there were systems that literally said our teachers will never get duty-free lunch. So if you think about that, if they've waived duty-free lunch, they've waived planning time, and then this system literally said our teachers will be supervising their students all during lunch. If they're supervising their students all during lunch and you've also waived planning time, when is that teacher going to the restroom during the day? And we've all been there. If you've been in a classroom more than a week, you've been there. You've been there that time. So these are the ones that have not waived. So these are the ones we're happy with, but the fact that it is such a small number is concerning. And so that is my presentation on waivers. If anyone has questions, I will be happy to share them. I will be happy to answer them. Joe and I have been working, and we do have representatives who have proposed bills to at least claw back some of these waivers. And we are hopeful that as we move on, they will begin, as more legislators truly understand this issue. I think we need to make it very real to them in the way that it's very real to us. And it got real for the Department of Education. I'm going to tell a short story, Tony. I promise to be short. You all remember during the pandemic, we had the pandemic funds were used for retention bonuses. And the districts got $1,000 per employee. Well, in the last round of bonuses, there was a district, and we know that all employees in a system are not always FTE employees. So they aren't being paid partially with state funds. All districts have extra employees that they are paying solely from local funds. We had a small district, that did not have the local funding available to give a bonus to all the employees. So what they did, they took the money that was provided, and I'm just going to use some round numbers. So there was $1,000 sent for 500 employees. So they were sent $500,000. They actually, instead of having 500 employees, they actually had 1,000 employees, and the other 500 were being paid from federal or local funds. And the district did not have another $500,000 to give that additional group of employees the bonus. So what did they do? They took the money they were sent, they divided it, and they gave every certified employee a specific amount and every ESP a specific amount, and everybody got something. And educators were like, no, wait a minute. I was told I was getting $1,000, that it was going to be $1,000. They raised you know what with us at GAE. They raised you know what with the governor and the Department of Education saying, no, you told us it was $1,000. Well, the reality was if they had given $1,000, it would have been a big issue if they had said, okay, well, we'll give you the $1,000 that was sent specifically for these people, and then the other people got nothing. When the Department of Education realized because of waivers, they can do whatever they want with this money, that's when it became more serious in 2024 when the waivers were renewed and they required more explanation from the districts. So we need to get our legislators, and believe me, the legislators in that area where this happened now know what the waivers really mean, but we need to get our legislators understanding what's happening. The fact that my school district waived duty-free lunch, which means I'm now in the classroom with my children from this time to this time, and no, I don't even get a break to go to the restroom during the day. And when Joe and I talk about this at the Capitol, all the time legislators are like, well, they wouldn't do that.
Mhm.
Well, that's not how it's supposed to work. Well, that may not be how you thought it would work, but that's what's happening. And we need to get every legislator hearing from educators in the classroom. Vivian said earlier, tell your story. Well, guess what, Vivian? Everybody does have a story because these things are happening to educators every day because of the waivers, and that's what we need everybody to let legislators know how these waivers are impacting and what is really happening in our classroom. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you, Tony.
Any questions for President Morgan about waivers? The chat has been active.
Yes.
Thank you so much, President Morgan. I know you'll be back to talk about PSCRS in a few minutes, but we're going to turn to Joe Fleming again now to tell us what to expect in this legislative session. And after Joe, we'll hear from TRS Board Chair Debbie Simons and past GAE President Debbie Simons about the teachers' retirement system, and from President Morgan and Joe about the PSCRS retirement system.
Thank you, Tony. So to repeat what Tony said at the beginning of the call, the session starts Monday, January 12th. It's in the Constitution. They have to convene on the second Monday in January. Session usually runs about 40 days, could be shorter, but usually runs 40 days, not consecutive. These are days that they're in session. So this first week will be largely ceremonial. There are new members who won these special elections that we talked about before who will be sworn in. There may be an announcement of new committee chairmen. The caucuses may meet and shuffle their leadership positions. Thursday of next week, we expect the governor to give his State of the State address. And this is probably the most important event of the first week. Generally, well, first of all, the governor always gives a State of the State address, just like the President of the United States. Usually the State of the State for the governor in Georgia includes more details on his budget. He is required by the Constitution of Georgia to submit a budget to the General Assembly. So we'll have a much better sense of what his financial priorities are for the state. He has told agencies and state departments earlier this year not to expect increases in their budget. I'm a little fearful of the whole budget process this year simply because of what's going on with the Trump administration in Washington. Trump is in the process of dismantling and eliminating the U.S. Department of Education. He's already been largely successful in that. I believe at the beginning of his term, the second term, There were 4,500 employees at the Department of Education. After the layoffs during the shutdown, they were down to like 400. So, you know, I tell members of the General Assembly, you know, how do you think you would operate if you lost that percentage of your employees? Would you be able to provide all the services that you do now? Would you be able to fund all the things that you're funding now? So I'm a little worried about that. Not so much in the mid-year budget. They do two budgets every year. One, they take a look at the current year budget and see if there needs to be adjustments upwards or downwards. For example, in education, if enrollment has gone up, they might add some extra dollars to the Georgia Department of Education budget. If it's gone down, they may take some away. Then they do a second budget, which will be the 2026-2027 budget. And that's where we may begin to see some problems with funding for current education programs in Georgia. The other problem in Georgia is I don't expect, if Trump eliminates more programs and cuts more severely programs, I don't think this General Assembly is going to be willing to take that responsibility on their own shoulders and recreate those programs or fund them. So the budget is a particularly big issue this year. It could have some impacts on our proactive agenda. For example, Lisa mentioned that we're trying to get some sort of compensation for student teachers. That would be a new expenditure. We'll be pushing for it, but it may have a challenge just because of the uncertainty over the budget. Also, we have worked very, very hard to improve the retirement benefits for our ESP members. Thank you, Patrice. Our school bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and maintenance personnel, school bus drivers, if I didn't mention that, to get them a meaningful retirement benefit. 2 years ago, in Georgia law, the formula to determine the benefits for ESP in the public school employees retirement system was $16.50 times years of service. I mentioned Larry Walker before, but I mean, it was a complete total team effort. We were able to eliminate that cap of $16.50, put in a $17 minimum, which is great. But we have to every year go back to the appropriations committees to ask for more and more and more because we're still at roughly an average of $300 a month in retirement for our ESPs, which is just frightening, really. Many of them certainly don't have time for another job that would pay any sort of meaningful retirement benefits. Senator Walker is also very concerned about two other issues. One, that school districts don't have any skin in the game. Unlike TRS, there is no employer contribution. It's just the individual contribution of $10 a month and then what the state appropriates for it. The second thing he's interested in, and we are too, it appears that state and federal law, at least according to the state Social Security Administrator, each state, by the way, must have a designated person as the state Social Security Administrator. It appears to be law that if a school district is not providing a meaningful retirement for our ESP members, then they must contribute for Social Security on behalf of those ESPs, even if they've opted out for teachers. So the Department of Audits, Georgia Department of Audits, has done a study and found at least 24 school districts that are not doing that. It's my belief that like Gwinnett County, which has their own independent pension plan, that qualifies. But many school districts have not been contributing to Social Security for their ESPs, and they should be doing that. So I'm hoping to see some progress this year. 50 cents. If we ask for a 50-cent increase, I mean, really, that's just nothing out of the state budget. So good to have Senator Walker as the president pro tem. That will help us. So we'll be moving forward on that front. 2026 obviously is an election year. Senator Ossoff is up for re-election. All statewide constitutional races are up. By that, I mean governor, school superintendent, attorney general. They're all up. And then, as is the case every 2 years, all seats in the state house and state senate are up. One of the things that means is in reality or in practice, we've got five pretty MAGA Republicans in the state senate running for statewide office, some for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. It's going to be interesting to see if they try to out MAGA each other to curry favor with the base. I've heard other theories that suggest that the session may be shorter than usual because these five and others want to get out there and start fundraising. And again, if they're a sitting member of the General Assembly, they can't be fundraising while they're in session. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'm a little concerned that we may just have some really crazy right-wing ideas upcoming, and that includes social issues, that includes LGBTQ issues, that includes books. We still have a bill pending that would potentially send librarians to jail for furnishing information to that's harmful to minors. So there's a lot to be wary of on that front as well. Superintendent Richard Woods has put out a proposal to raise teacher salaries by $10,000 over 5 years. It will be interesting to see if Governor Kemp is on board with that. Superintendent Woods and Kemp have been on board for a while, but something has happened recently between the superintendent and Republicans at the Capitol, and I'm not quite sure why, but we'll see. But Woods is committed to finding $10,000 over the next 5 years for teacher salary improvements. He's also put forth a proposal to extend the teacher salary schedule, which now stops at 20 years, and he's proposed to extend it to 30 years. So once you hit 20 years of service, you don't get another pay raise unless the state specifically appropriates one for an increase in salary step, or if your local is willing to pay extra for that. So there's a couple of things of interest in there. The superintendent's not been terribly aggressive at pushing legislation. Hopefully this year it'll be a little more so. We'll have vouchers back again this year. There are 4 voucher bills that were introduced last session. These were bills that would have grown the voucher program that passed a year ago, even before the program had started, even before it had signed up the first student. Just goes to show you how these people are always of the mindset, let's grow private school vouchers, let's grow them. So that could be a big issue. That could be an election issue for some of them. So they may be even more motivated to pass that. So vouchers is one other area that we'll be looking closely at. Lisa covered waivers pretty thoroughly. I don't have much to add there. We did get a study committee to look into waivers passed by the state Senate last year, I believe without a no vote. Unfortunately, the lieutenant governor who appoints members to the study committee never did so for this study committee, so it never had the authority to meet, had no members. But we will be dusting that off again and maybe running a version in the House as well, because I believe anyway that the more sunshine we cast on the issue of waivers, the more members will begin to get it. At least it's totally right. When you tell them, and I'll give Lisa credit for this too, you basically have a situation where local school boards have veto power over the governor and the General Assembly. They go through all of these processes and committee meetings to adopt education bills. The governor signs them into law, and a school board can say, as Lisa said earlier, we're just not going to follow that law. Is basically the way it works. So the more sunshine we get on waivers, the better off we'll be in it. And we are making progress, and we know we're making progress because we see education bills now that say this bill cannot be waived. And we didn't used to see those ever. Or at least I never saw them. And then the last thing on the agenda, and who knows what else may come up, we want to move toward establishing a salary schedule for the ESPs also. As you know, there is no state salary schedule for ESPs. Some local school districts have salary schedules, but we want to begin raising awareness of that issue too, so that we have some sort of minimum statewide standard for salaries for these members and educators. Tony, that's kind of a look at the session. Again, first week, kind of largely ceremonial. Big news will be coming from the governor on the budget. And then the week of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, the appropriations committees will meet. They'll delve into the governor's budget, and we'll have a better opportunity to speak out and to see what direction they're moving in on funding for public education.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Joe? Patrick has his hand raised.
Thank you, Tony. Joe, one of my questions that I've always had a problem with on the salary schedule wasn't so much, well, first off, 20 years, most teachers have to teach to their 25th year. They want to retain teachers. But what I saw is the beginning salary is so high, but if you go to the top of the scale, even with a master's degree, that is so narrow.
Yeah.
You're not making that much more with a master's degree and 20 plus years serving as you do beginning teachers. So is there any bites, I guess you want to say, from legislators that we want to increase step increases rather than one big increase all at once? I think that would really make a big influence of keeping teachers there, because we'll see a big thing. And I see Lisa has her finger up. She wants to talk.
Joe, before you answer him, Patrick, I'm just going to tell you, Governor Kemp's favorite thing to say about education and teacher salaries is that we have the highest average teacher salary in the Southeast. Every time you say something about salaries with him, we have the highest average teacher salary in the Southeast. Now hush.
Yeah, that's pretty much their response anytime pay raises come up. Lisa recently wrote a column for the Atlanta newspaper, and I think I have a link somewhere. If I can find that link, I'll post it. But in this column, she writes that, and this is the truth, we are now behind Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, South Carolina, Florida in starting teacher salaries, which is amazing to me that we're behind Mississippi in starting salaries. Good grief. So yeah, I mean, it'd be great if the governor came back with another pay raise. I mean, frankly, he deserves some credit. He has shepherded through $9,500 in salary step increases, but inflation is just eating away a lot of that. I tried to run some calculations. I'm not very good at math, but we're not far away from the point where they're now making what they made 5 years ago when adjusted for inflation. So. One legislator had a bill last year that would have tied teacher salaries to the rate of inflation, so that as inflation goes up, kind of like a cost of living adjustment, salaries would go up. So there's some members down there. We have bills also usually introduced by Democrats that would require additional money to be appropriated for educator salaries. Debbie's nodding.
Any other questions for Joe? All right. Thank you so very much, Joe, for
Yeah.
that important overview. We'll hear from you again about PSCRS in a few minutes. Before we go to TRS Chair Debbie Simons, I saw Dr. Craig Carter, our Executive Director, come into the room. And Dr. Carter, I'd like to give you a moment to greet our members.
There we go. Hey, Miss Tony. Good morning to all of our GAE retired. I apologize. I've been on a NCSEA NEA call this morning. I'm the vice president of all of our management across the nation, and that's an honor to have. But I hope you all have been having a wonderful time. I've been keeping up with you, and you're doing some great things. I know you all. Kudos to you all. You've been recognized by the National Education Association for your work and advocacy for LGBTQIA plus students, specifically the trans students and community. You all were recognized. So I give you all a shout out for that by the NEA and our NEA organizing magazine. GAE has consecutively, since I've been in Georgia, recognized going on 6 years now. Can you all believe that? It's so hard to believe, but you all, GAE has been recognized in some form or fashion, all the way from our aspiring educators to our GAE retired for our organizing work. And I think that is so exciting. And I want to say to you all, we've got a lot of great things going on and a lot of great things occurring. First of all, we are first in the nation still for membership growth from year to date. We are up. Are y'all ready for this? 3,165 members from this time where we were last year. Our current GAE membership sets at 30,130 versus last year 26,968. Part of that effort, I was able to put together a grant through the NEA of maximizing the metro. I know, hopefully you all, that doesn't mean we forgot the whole state. Our staff is doing a phenomenal job organizing. I hope you've been seeing those pictures. Matter of fact, I had the opportunity yesterday to join one of our metro organizers in the field at Hawthorne Elementary School, not too far from the GAE headquarters in DeKalb County. We were able to pick up 17 new members in that school yesterday. Particularly, I want to give a shout out of the fruits of labor of that grant. We get a wonderful report, President Morgan and I do, along with Vice President Doe and Carly Shaw, Secretary Treasurer, and it shows the current year versus the prior year. Lisa always calls it Craig's favorite report because I use it with our management team and our staff a lot. And it shows at the very beginning of the year where we set with membership, and it breaks down every single local, including every college and every university in Georgia. And as of right now, as far as our active locals, it shows when they're behind, they're shaded red. And where they're up from this time from the previous year, it turns them to green. Every single school district that has a local in Georgia is in green, with the exception of 3 of them. And I think that is so amazing because that shows a testament to how our staff, how our local governance leaders, how our board members, how our GAE retired, how our aspiring educators are out there in the field. We are visible. We are collectively conducting one-on-one conversations with our members. Joe, just this week, in our management meeting, stressed the 2026 legislative priorities, as you all, and he's carried those across and mentioned today, because GAE is the only organization that is out there legislatively in contact and in tune with our legislators. GAE is the only association where our UniServe director staff and our organizational specialists are visible. They're out there in schools, even a week, returning from a 2-week vacation for Christmas break. And yesterday, it hasn't been posted yet, but in 1 week, had 167 new members in 1 week and returning. And I think that is exciting. Some of the work of that maximizing the Metro grant, is phenomenal, and it's working because our staff is out there. Our Metro organizers, we're so lucky to have two Metro organizational specialists. One of them you may have met. His name is Amazel Bay. And the other one, his name is DJ Morrow, and he was most recently hired along with the new UniServe director that will be serving Gwinnett and Atlanta. We're so excited. He starts the 1st of February. His name is Jan D'Aguilar. Jan actually worked in Atlanta Public Schools, and he's coming back home from our sister affiliate of the Pennsylvania Education Association, where he served as a UniServe director. But those two new Metro organizational specialists, we have such a huge potential in the Metro, and their work is showing that. And let me tell you how their work is showing that. Y'all want some more good news? Are you ready for this? The Organization of DeKalb Educators, ODE, since the beginning of the school year, they are up 543 new members because of our organizational specialists in the Metro, and still growing. I'm hoping by the end of the year, we see a growth of over 1,000 new members there in DeKalb County. We can't forget Atlanta Public Schools, APS. We know that they've kind of been some stagnant in some ways from previous outstanding governance. They're identifying new governance leaders. Those Metro organizational specialists are. Are y'all ready for this? Atlanta Public Schools is up 301 new members from where they were this time last year, which lets us know that those employees, those ESPs, those actives are just waiting for GAE to come into their work site and tell them what GAE is doing. We're sharing, Joe, those legislative priorities. I saw DJ, I saw Amazel handing those out yesterday and inviting people to our day at the Capitol on March the 5th. Bibb County is up 319 new members where they were this time last year. Gwinnett County is up 302 new members where they were. Clayton County is up 340 new members. Fulton County is up 343, and Cobb County is up 160. There's obviously more growth all across the board with Hall County, Henry County, but we are seeing growth all the way from Savannah, far south, all the way up to north, and Paulding and around there, and Polk. So some exciting things going on with GAE. In lieu of what's happening all across our country with ICE and so many things that we see, fair injustices happening in our country, we have members that are scared. I know that because I'm not just sitting at the desk in the headquarters. I'm out there and I'm meeting with our members as well. And I hear things, especially among, certain ethnicities. And I'm hearing things about, immigrants that are in our country that are working and documented and working in our public schools in Georgia, but are scared and are carrying around their passport with them at all times to show proof. And I think that to hear them talk to me with tears in their eyes, some of them are ELL, English second language teachers. Some of them work in our cafeterias. Some are paras. It's real. And, as a state affiliate, we have to reflect on what we're doing for those individuals and those members. President Morgan and I, Lisa, we've been on state leaders calls, and Lisa was this week when I had another meeting briefing me on some of that language. But we want to have GAE continually in the forefront to show our members that we're fighting for them. And that doesn't take much when you see all of the great things that you all retired are doing, our local leaders, and our successes that we're having. One of the greatest successes, and I can't wait till Monday, Patrice Hutchinson, kudos to her. I think I saw her on here earlier, being named a new school board member, and the importance of that work, and one of our largest school districts, Atlanta Public Schools, knowing that we have a friend in education that not only took part in See Educators Run at NEA, but has continually showed up like she did at the Fall Leadership Conference. We had one of the largest fall leadership conferences, and that was so important to note. And she was there at that, speaking, and did a great job to all of our membership. We ran things behind the scenes that we can't even talk about, but we see that success of our PAC and GAE. We see the success of a Karen Soheim, who gives of her time even when she's retired. Tony, Patrick, all your leaders, I could keep going on, but showing up for our actives, mentoring them, mentoring our aspiring educators. You know, Brenda Montgomery, who's there with them and talks about when she was a student member in Georgia and how that made a difference. Those stories, it's not something that I'm doing. It's something that we're all doing. It takes a team. And thank you all for having me serve as your executive director. I love Georgia. We're doing great work. And you know, gosh darn it, we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to shine, and we're going to continue to show that GAE is the preeminent voice for quality public education in Georgia, and our data reflects that. Thank you, Ms. Tony.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Linda Smith has her hand raised. I believe she has a question for you.
Yes, Dr. Carter, I want to just take a moment without tears to say thank you for all you've done since you have come to bring GAE to the forefront, not only in membership, but in a new spirit of why we are who we are. My question lies with you in terms of activism. I know that your thrust has been, and it is evident in the growth of membership. I'm so elated because the Atlanta retired group, I'm working now to pull us together so that we can be more effective with GAE. But I'm making, I guess, a question and a request at the same time, is that we find some way to show by movement and in the streets that we are there for education. We have schools that are minimizing the effect of libraries. And I can't bring it to fore now because I'm doing some more evidential work, as I would like to say, but we are there when nobody else has been. So that's my question, I guess, and I guess that would entail you and Joe and legislative or whatever to make our presence known at the, while we're at the GAE Day at the Capitol, to have some activism to show our numbers, not just under the building, but as a unified group.
Absolutely. Thank you for your kind words, Linda. I appreciate that. I think that your request is warranted. I think it's imperative, as I said earlier, in light of what we're seeing occurring, not just across our nation, but Georgia too. It's real. And I take that into account. I will talk to Joe concerning about that. And I will talk to Tammy, who manages our new UniServe director, Jan D'Aguilar, who, as I said, was a product and a local governance leader in Atlanta Public Schools at one time. I will talk to them about that, and as well as include President Morgan in that discussion. I think that we do need to make something like that known to show, because we do have those stories, as I said earlier. We do have those members that are being affected, and those legislators need to hear it. And I think that is warranted. And I think that is something that we need to show up and show out for, especially when we have that many members there on that day. I also would be very interested in talking to you, Linda, off guard for tickets to that grandson. I'm kidding. Congratulations on him and that amazing salary. I think that's a kudos to you and your family. I love watching him saying, I know his grandma, so I just want to throw that out there. But I want you to talk to me off the grid. Because I would like to set up and talk with Tammy, have a meeting with the new UniServe director, who's phenomenal, coming from Pennsylvania back home, Jan, and let him meet you all. I think that that's important too, to organize around some of those efforts locally. And gosh darn it, like I said earlier, we know a school board member there now.
Yes.
I know, Linda, you know a lot of them. So, but
Yes.
regardless of that, I think that will be imperative for us. And because that'll show some action too, that some things maybe we can do and have some members show up and talk about some concerns. My goal is what I'm seeing Atlanta, I mean, not Atlanta, in Gwinnett do right now. Because Gwinnett, under the direction of their president there, Allison Cundiff, she shows up at every single one of those school board members, and she is speaking out on concerns that are occurring that she's seeing as she's in those schools. So once new governance is identified there in APS, but we can include some of our retired too.
Yes.
I want us to show up at those school board meetings and have those kinds, the kind of presence that once was prior, that led the way for the new leadership and new governance to be, because you all can shed a light on the autonomy and what some of that looks like in the APS school system. But as of today, we're really excited because the administration there is very welcoming to us. And that is something that's nice. Let us go anywhere we want within those schools and work sites. And I would like our retired group to help us in going into some of those schools. So I'm on it, and I've made note. Thank you, Ms. Linda.
Thank you so much. In closing, let me say what snatched me into GAE about almost 50 years ago, and it was Mary Howard Futrell, and she said, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not you, who? And if not now, when?" So I just love the work that everybody's doing, and it's encouraging to know that our ancestors are watching, and I'm sure they are smiling down on us, but they're saying, "Get your butt back in the ring. We got more work to do." So thank you, Craig, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Dr. Carter?
I just wanted to check and see if he was aware of another thing that Allison and I had gotten done in Gwinnett. The board work sessions used to be starting for our Board of Education at 2 p.m. while all of those stakeholders are still at work. As of the last board meeting, it has been approved that they will now have their meetings 2 days a week. And when they have that Thursday business meeting, that Tuesday, they will have a 6 p.m. work session. So they can have stakeholders in the room to be holding people accountable.
Love it. Congrats, Misty. And thank you for all your governance leadership there, assisting them. I know you're doing some great things. I know President Morgan and I saw your name possibly on See Educators Run in the future. And hopefully you're thinking about a bid for stepping up and stepping at the plate, because there's nothing better than having educators run for public office. And Patrice is a wonderful example of that. So thank you, Misty. Kudos on that win.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. We're so glad you made it to be here with us. Now we will hear from TRS Board Chair and past GAE President Debbie Simons about the teachers' retirement system and what might be happening in the legislature concerning TRS this session.
Well, thank you, Tony, and I'm going to keep the good news going. Personal note of thanks to Dr. Carter, President Morgan, and our legislative liaison, Joe Fleming. It's always a sense of relief and pride for me to point to these three people as our obvious statewide leaders. So some of that good news, basic facts about TRS. We do have, and by the way, pardon my voice, it's been this way since Thanksgiving. We're working on it, but I don't know quite what's causing it. We have 253,000 active members in TRS. We have 157,000 retired. The average monthly income for our retired, now this is average, is $3,696. We send out from TRS into the state and local budgets $559 million a month. So you can tell from that, as we go into the legislative session, you will be able to tell your legislators how important our defined benefit program is for the local economy. Overall, our net position as of November 2025 was at 123.9 billion. That's how much we have held in trust for the active and retired members. That's significant. And I will add something else that you all don't know. This is going to be brand new to everybody on this phone call. You all know that Dr. Evans retired as of November 1. The board hired Dr. Jason Branch. Some of you know him and have worked with him as he was superintendent and teacher all over the state of Georgia. In a phone discussion with Dr. Branch and myself just before Christmas, we decided to approach Dr. Evans as being a contract employee for TRS Georgia to help us and monitor legislation during the legislative session. So I think you all should be very proud and delighted to hear that Dr. Evans has not left us entirely. Not that he ever would, but Joe in particular, I know you had a very good working relationship with Buster, so you can continue that relationship.
That's great news.
Yeah, it is great news. And
Debbie, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you give me the total assets again?
Total assets as of November 2025 was 123.9 billion.
Thank you.
It's more than that now, but those figures will come out at our trustee board meeting in a couple of weeks here in January. If you want an even updated number, I'm sure I can call in and get it. But you know how the number moves, but it's only going up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Will in this in this current market situation. So all good news so far. Still continuing good news. As Joe and some of you are aware, there have been meetings in the interim of a couple of pieces of legislation. Since we're in the second year of the 2-year biennium, there can be no new monetary legislation introduced. Take a deep breath. This session, all we can do is deal with past legislation. 2 of those bills are Senate Bill 150 and House Bill 372. Both of those deal with the return to work. Now, the current return to work bill sunsets in 2026, so it must be reauthorized. These 2 particular bills have, went into the actuarial study, came back with the figures. They're 2 very different bills. They are still especially after those actuarial statements came back. There's some changes going on with both of those. So there is intent, it would appear, to go ahead and extend the return to work. What format it's going to take, we're not quite sure. So that's something that we're all going to be watching as the time goes on. The other bill that is on our radar as far as retirement legislation is Senate Bill 209. That's the PSERS to TRS. I know Lisa's going to be talking about this. I'm not going to be going into any further information about that. I will just let Lisa and Joe deal with it. Just wanted you to know that we, as TRS Georgia Pension Fund, are very well aware of it. In general, we're very supportive of any improvements that can be added to PSERS and would lend our voice as appropriate time to support the improvement in that fund. That is the information that I have. I see there's a whole bunch of questions in chat I haven't looked at. Tony, I don't know how you want to handle this going forward. If anybody has any questions. I think you're muted, Tony.
I'm checking the chat now to see if there's anything specific to TRS. I see something that just came through. I don't see anything specific to TRS, but when is the next meeting, Debbie?
The next TRS board meeting is January 28th.
Okay, January 28th, and there's a link to the live feed on the TRS website, correct?
Correct.
Yes, so you can watch that. We do have a TRS monitor, Lisa Underwood, who virtually attends all of those meetings and writes a very comprehensive report. It's unbelievable, that report she does. So please make sure that you avail yourself of that information. It is in the GAE Voices. A link to that on the GAE retired page in GAE Voices. And it's also linked in the Loop newsletter for retired and pre-retired members. Patrick has his hand up.
I just wanted to say one thing. This is a testimony to GAE. They have delivered quality leadership, and Debbie Simons is the perfect example because she has done more to support us retirees since she left her office and retired as a teacher to join the TRS board. And I mean, we couldn't have a better representative to support us. Thank you, Debbie, for all you do.
Thank you, Patrick.
Ditto. I agree with that 100%. Thank you so much, Debbie, for everything you do for us.
And Tony, let me just add this. I had an excellent relationship as board chair with Dr. Evans, and continue to have that same open discussion and conversation with Dr. Branch. He's truly a wonderful person, keeps me in the loop to the fact that he wanted to talk to me on New Year's Eve afternoon and didn't hesitate to call. And we talked TRS business. So I have to laugh. He is definitely, keeping your board chair and the trustees, very open communication, very comfortable relationship.
Well, that's good news. That's good to hear. Because we all really, and it's good to hear that Dr. Evans will still be a part of the cadre, of the TRS cadre. That's good news because he has really, steered the ship expertly and with transparency and integrity. And we know that Dr. Branch will do the same. Thank you so much. But now you mentioned PSERS, and we're going to let President Morgan and Joe Fleming tell us a little bit more about that to make sure that you're up to speed on what that system provides and why it's so crucial that we continue to lobby for a change in that system.
Okay, Joe, I'll jump in first. So PSERS was created in 1970 as a separate retirement system. And the law creating this system said it was to be a supplemental retirement system. So the system was all created with the intention. And I remember when all that long time ago, I was in elementary school in the mid-70s when our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our custodians, our school maintenance personnel were part-time positions. We know that is not the reality anymore, but so we now have our school employees who are full-time positions. Their retirement was built based on the it would be a part-time position, and they would have another full-time job that would provide their retirement income. That's not the case. So we have been working on this. Joe talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But when we started really focusing on this, there was a cap. There was a maximum that these benefits could be. And that was the way their retirement is calculated in PSERS. It is the number of years of service times a dollar amount, and that's your monthly benefit. So the legal cap was $16.50, which we Senate Bill 105 that Senator Walker ushered through the process for us eliminated that cap and set $17 as the minimum multiplier. So it can go as high as we can get them to approve it. The thing to understand, and obviously we are going to be asking them to increase it. And what I'm going to put in the chat for everyone is our one page with information about PSERS and what we're asking for. This is what we'll be passing out to everybody at Day at the Capitol. Our ask now says we should move it up to $20. And that's where we're starting. The thing to understand is for many of these employees, and Debbie mentioned the bill that would allow PSERS employees to opt into TRS. At first glance, everybody's like, oh yeah, that'd be great. It's a much better retirement system. But let me tell you what happens, okay? And I know personal experience with this. Some of our cafeteria workers, custodians, etc., are in TRS, and those are the cafeteria managers, the head custodians. Okay, so one of the cafeteria workers at my school, she's a member. She's been a member for a long time. She became the cafeteria manager. She can go into TRS. But the problem is she's only going to work a short time in TRS. She's a cafeteria worker. She can't afford to transfer her PSERS years into TRS. Okay? Dr. Kim Morgan is the superintendent in Brantley County, and she talks about a lady that worked in her system that was a bus driver, I think, for 9 years. It's 10 years to vest in PSERS. This lady wasn't vested in PSERS. Then she moved into a position in the school that was covered by TRS, I think a para. In her first 4 years as a para, she had an accident and became disabled. She was not vested in TRS for disability. She's now worked in the system 13 years, but because she had that change, she was unable to get disability. So it's, yes, first thought, we need to fix the PSERS system for the people that are in it. And we know they cannot afford to buy those years in TRS. So even if they could go into TRS tomorrow moving forward, we still need to fix the issues in PSERS as they are. One of the things is that, it's 15 years to be vested for disability in PSERS. That's a problem because it's not, we need to make the two systems more equitable in those type of things, not just the money. Joe wasn't excited, but I got kind of excited. We have broken the $300 barrier.
Barely.
Barely, but we have broken that barrier. When we started this, the average monthly benefit for PSCRS retirees was $290. It's up to $304. I rounded it down on the sheet, but $300, but it's up to $304. And yes, that is not enough. But a $14 increase might be groceries for one extra meal that we have been able to provide. When we have these every penny counts when you're in that situation, and I know it does. Is it enough? No, it's not. But we have made some progress, and we need to continue working on this. Joe and Tony, I've got one more thing I want to talk about, but Joe, anything else you want to talk about for PSCRS?
I think that covers it.
Okay. Oh, perfect timing. We have a question in the chat about SB 150 to expand and enhance the return to work. Okay. We have supported the bills to expand the return to work. You need to understand, however, there is a lot of misinformation about this bill on social media. I'm contacted by members all the time who misunderstand this bill and think that this bill is going to reduce retirement to 25 years. It does not do that. Okay? This bill simply expands the pool of current retirees who could return to the classroom full time. So it does not change anything for currently working teachers. And the person in the chat says, "No, it's not me." Yeah, I'm preaching my sermon I wanted to preach, because literally it was on social media that this was 25 years. My phone rang off the hook one morning. So much, and I kept explaining over and over and over. I don't care what you saw on social media. This bill does not allow you to retire after 25 years. So what I want to say to that, because of this one and some others, read your legislative update. I promise you, if there is a bill that is part of our GAE legislative priorities and is good for education, and it is moving, we will talk about it in the legislative update. Joe and I do that legislative update together every single night of the session. And if there's something good for educators, we're going to tell you about it. You don't have to get your news from social media. But if we don't put it in there, it's probably a pep rally or a press conference bill. Okay, good and bad. There is going to be a whole lot of bills introduced this year that somebody's going to hold a press conference and say, "I introduced this bill. It's going to be wonderful. I'm so excited." And nothing else is going to happen to that bill. Don't get worried over the bad, and don't get excited about the good until you read it in your GAE legislative update. And we'll tell you about all the bad that's introduced and all the good that's introduced. But until we say it's in this committee hearing and we were there to testify, it's probably not moving anywhere. And that's the thing I want everybody to know. Don't, it's an election year, y'all. A lot of legislators are going to be introducing a lot of bills, and they're doing it so they can have a press conference. Okay. We had some people that had a press conference over the summer talking about a bill they were going to introduce. And my response, I got lots of phone calls and emails. Are we supporting this? Are we supporting this? And I said, there's nothing to support. Until January 12th, nothing can be introduced new to the Georgia legislature. If it's introduced January 12th, then we can talk about it. But so that's my sermon for today. Please, if you see it on social media and it wasn't in your legislative update, go back to your legislative update. I promise we're going to give you everything in the legislative update, but don't trust what you see on social media. People sent me all kinds of videos telling me that the return to work bill was changing retirement to 25 years. I'm like, that's not what this does. That is not what this does. So I'll stop and I'll put the PSERS in there and I'll stop my sermon there. Please, and I guess my biggest plug there is read your legislative update. We'll always tell you at the end of it when the next one's going to be. And so that's where we are. And I will put the PSERS one-pager in the chat for you to see.
Lisa, I get calls and emails, not too often, but regularly. People saying they don't get a copy of our legislative alert, which I assume means that the whole opt-out process. But can you explain how somebody can get back on that list?
Yes. If they go, hold on, Joe. I know you're going to do this. Put the link to our previous alerts in the chat. Do you have that pulled up?
I don't have it pulled up, but
Okay.
just 1 second.
Go. If you go to a previous alert and scroll all the way to the bottom in a previous alert, you can click the subscribe button to opt back in. And people say to me all the time, I never opted out. And my first question to them is, because I learned this the hard way from experience. If you forward the GAE legislative alert to someone else because you think they'll be interested, they didn't get it. If they click opt out, it doesn't opt them out. It opts you out because you're the one that it was sent to. So if you've been opted out, unfortunately, go to the website on one of our previous alerts and click subscribe. If you've been opted out, it will then ask you it will send you an email and say, are you sure you want to subscribe? And it will say to Kevin Pearson's emails, because he's our communication director that set up all the alerts. And answer yes, and you will be opted back in. And if you're like me, who for years has been forwarding our legislative alerts to other people, I subscribed with multiple email addresses. So if one of my email addresses gets opted out, I've got it coming to another one. So I always have it.
Lisa, I want to go ahead.
Go. No, go, Joe. Go.
I'm going to put two links into the chat on something I thought was really interesting this week. But those of you that don't love C-SPAN and follow stuff like that may not appreciate it. But it was a pretty interesting event this week. The 7 major Democratic candidates for governor held a forum. And, you know, they're all good people. I think we can end up supporting almost any of them. But if you want to learn more about these candidates, I'm putting the link to a debate they held in Savannah this week. And I realize this may be boring for some of you guys, but it could be educational and helpful to get introduced to these candidates. Thank you.
Thank you both so very much. We need to know about this woefully underperforming retirement system for our education support professionals, and we will continue our advocacy and build a movement to lobby for change. There's a lot happening on the national front, and our very, very skilled NEA director, Martisa Moore, is going to bring us up to speed on what's happening with NEA and federal legislation.
Good morning, everyone. Miss Tony, do I have sharing rights?
I will give them to you. Give it a few seconds. Just give it a beat, and then you should be able to share.
All right. So, guys, I have some things I want to share with you this morning. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we lobbied in October as a board member, and Jeff and I, and so we had three things we were asking of our legislators. First thing was to fully fund, I know most of you will be very happy to see that, fully fund the IDEA. When this bill was first bought before states, we were told that it would cover 40% of the extra cost for providing special education. Well, the United States still has not done that. At most cases, that we it's less than half that is promised that we get that we were promised to get. So we were asking for this to go over a 10-year span for 12% to start and then to gradually increase to the 40% over a 10-year span. And we on this bill, it was 37 Senate co-sponsors and 116 House co-sponsors. It still has yet to Congress made a big funding promise for special education, but decades later, it still hasn't delivered that promise, and that was one of the asks that we lobbied for. The second one is in the middle slide, that um, the Constitution only gives um, Congress the authority to decide how federal money is spent, not the president. And the current administration has been cutting money that Congress already approved to go to our schools and taking funds that Congress allocated for our schools and redirecting money and to many different purposes that Congress did not intend, and all without any approval from Congress at all. So our ask was to have some safeguard words or safeguard rails put into that language so that that would not be able to happen in fiscal year 2026 for education funding and bills, to make sure that administration cannot change or repurpose the money that is allocated to come to education. And thirdly, we really wanted some co-sponsors for this ESP bill that is coming forth. And they play because we all know that we couldn't run schools without our ESPs, right? We need them. They play essential roles in student learning and school operations. Despite everything that they do, they are not paid enough. They're underpaid. A third earn $25,000 or less per year. 10% need food assistance, and 10% rely on Medicaid or Medicare because their wages are so low. In other words, people in those who help the schools function the most can't afford for basic necessities. Our request was to urge lawmakers to co-sponsor the two resolutions, S Bill 158, I think, and 297 for the House They were similar bills, and any bill that is similar that would help our ESPs. These measures are important, and officially they recognize the importance of our ESPs because we know we can't function without them, and we support efforts to improve their pay and financial stability because they're essential, but they're underpaid. So we ask for some legislation to support that. And then legally, things that we've been doing. During the government shutdown, the U.S. Department of Education changed furloughed employees' automatic out of office emails messages to include political statements that was blaming Democrats for the shutdown. The American Federation of Government Employees, a major federal workers union, sued, arguing that the government cannot force employees to send out those type of political messages. The judge decided that a federal judge in DC ruled in favor of the union and against the government. The judge found that the government violated the First Amendment by compelling employees to send a political speech that they did not choose. And as a result of the violation, the judge issued a permanent injunction, and an injunction is a binding order. The court said you cannot force federal employees to send out political messages blaming the party for a shutdown. That violates freedom of speech and removed the political language, and now they were told not to do it again. The second thing was a federal judge in California temporarily blocked the Trump administration from cutting fundings for the University of California and imposing fines on the University of California because they were still abiding by DEI programs. And so they were told that those fundings were going to be taken from them because of that. Well, we had a good win in that one. It was all because of a grant. The administration suspended research funding at UCLA, and it said the funding will only be restored if the university agreed to a list of demands, which include reviewing or changing its DEI programs, limiting student autonomy during protest, and restricting transgender students' access to bathrooms and sports teams. Other conditions were unrelated to the original grant. The union argued that the administration was using federal funds to pressure the university into adopting certain political positions. So, and then finally, the last one was 8 states sued the U.S. Department of Education because the Department of Education canceled $6 million in teacher training grants that those states were supposed to receive. A federal judge in Massachusetts just ruled in the following. But earlier in the case, before he ruled, a lower court tried to temporarily block the education department for canceling grants. The U.S. Senate stepped in a shadow docket, and it was fast. It was very fast, and it paused the block. The Supreme Court said the lower court probably did not have the authority to force the Department of Education to actually pay out the grant money. So the Supreme Court basically signaled you cannot order the government to pay the grant, but you might be able to review the process that led to the cancellation. So this it states that the claims allow the ED issued improper directives and it used flawed procedures, and it also acted unlawfully, and it led up to the canceling of the grant. These states can now challenge the Department of Education to decide to determine those grants or not, but they cannot use a lawsuit to enforce the Department of Education to actually pay the $65 million. I have some dates for you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to this. This has already been sent, a letter to our representatives in DC and our senators in DC on behalf of the Georgia Association of Educators and our members. I have it in the chat as soon as I can get to it. I'm out of this slide presentation. I'll pop it in so you guys can read it further. And then finally, our upcoming events. Super Week will be February 10th through the 13th in DC. We have a National Leadership Summit, March 13th through the 15th in Chicago. And then finally, you can register for some mental health trainings through NEA.org. And the registration date is approaching fast. Deadline for registration is January 31st, 2026. And those dates are 2/9 through 3/19. That is all I have. Thank you very much for letting me serve as your representative.
Thank you so much, Martisa. You're doing an amazing job as our director. We really appreciate you and how thorough and awesome you are. Are there any questions for Martisa? And she has dropped the document in the chat that she promised. It's just to let you know, at the Leadership Summit in Chicago, I will be presenting along with Karen Solheim, our Respect is More Than Yes, Ma'am, and No, Sir. It's been expanded. And we will be presenting at the Leadership Summit on the last day, that Sunday morning. Registration is now open for the Leadership Summit at NEA.org. So consider attending. All right, if there are no questions for Martisa, we're now going to go to Vivian Brooks, who will remind us of our big win with GPO WEP. And Martisa, I guess you can stop sharing your screen now. Thank you so much. Vivian?
Okay, GPO WEP were the two Social Security penalty laws that caused educators to have financial hardship due to the two bills reducing educators' Social Security benefits or eliminating their Social Security benefits completely. Okay, in January 2025, GPO WEP had been repealed in December of 2024, and President Biden signed the repeal of GPO WEP into law in January of 2025. The repeal allowed educators to receive their Social Security benefits. They received back pay for 1 year, and now they are currently receiving their full Social Security benefits. The repeal of GPO WEP was GAE and NEA biggest lobby victory. They had been working on repealing GPO web for 40 years. Let's be empowered. Let's lobby. It works. GPO web really showed a lot of people that lobbying actually works. And I want to say that Georgia, our GAE members, Tony, I can't name all of Lisa, Karen, Patrick, Daniel, Joe, and many more. I hope I didn't leave out. I know I left out some people. Have worked very hard. And I think Martisa and Jeff have worked very hard to help repeal GPO web. I don't want to leave out anyone, but I'll just say GAE members.
Thank you so much, Vivian. We really appreciate that report. Before we turn to our president, Patrick Crabtree, to wrap us up, I'd like to pivot back to Joe Fleming or Lisa to make an appeal for us to participate in GAE Day at the Capitol in March.
What I would say for GAE Day at the Capitol, this is your chance to be face to face with your legislator that's making decisions that impact you each and every day. Whether you are standing in a classroom, whether you're on a bus, whether you're preparing the meals, whether you're a resource teacher, whatever you are doing every single day in your job, there are legislators making decisions that are going to impact what you're doing every single day. And it's very important that they see and hear from those people who are being impacted. I think every legislator you talk to is going to say they support educators and education. And many times they have good intentions, but their intentions are not what happens when we get the intentions do not equal implementation. And they truly need to understand how things are impacting our students when they are implemented. And like I said, they'll tell Joe and I, that's not happening. That's not what this is going to do. And I'll say, like, yeah, it is. And they need to hear it from you that, yes, this is what this is going to do. This is going to be the impact in the classroom. This is how it's going to impact students. And so they need to see and hear from you, and hear from those who are feeling the direct impact.
Yeah, Lisa, this day matters a lot. It is important for them to see quantity and also have quality time with the legislators. And it reminds me, and you can tell the story better than I can, Lisa, but it reminds me of how we got the ESP pension initiative going. We asked the chairman of the retirement committee, then Randy Robertson. Well, first we explained the issue about how low and pathetic the retirement benefits were for our school bus drivers and cafeteria workers, et cetera. And we asked him for a hearing. He held it. He held one, I think at 9 a.m. or scheduled one for 9 a.m. on a Friday. You know, obviously our ESPs couldn't be there. So we asked him for do another one on a Saturday, which he did in Columbus, Georgia. 7 days before Christmas, Lisa? And
Yes.
We had 50 of our ESPs and other GA members show up. And that personal contact, that FaceTime, really won the day and convinced these two Republicans who were in leadership that this was an issue worth addressing. So those personal contacts matter. You got to feed them after you go to the Capitol and meet your legislators and talk with them. But it's a hugely important day. So I do encourage everyone to be there. We have set records in the last couple of years, several years. We are now at the point where Lisa and I wanted to do 2 days at the Capitol this year because we've run out of space. We are now at the limit of the number of people who will fit in the only really available space within a walking distance of the Capitol. We're at capacity. The fire marshal won't let us have any more. Now they're building a new building that may help address that new legislative building. But anyway, your participation and attendance is so important. Last year it was freezing cold. I think it snowed the night before, yet we still had over 225 folks there. So March 5th, I put a flyer in the chat a couple of times. That'll give you information. I'm not sure that flyer doesn't have a link to it. Let me put the URL
And
in the link.
Joe,
Right. Go ahead.
yeah, we wanted to do 2 days. And we secured funding to do 2 days through our legislative grant. Unfortunately, the spaces aren't available. So we have 1 day, March 5th. That's when when the space is available. And we want everybody to attend and be that face of an educator that your legislator needs to see.
Right. And if you just give me 1 second, Tony, I'll put the registration link in there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Please participate. I've already registered. I will be there coming back from Phoenix the day before, but I will be there. So I want to see you there, and we will have an informational meeting sponsored by GAE Retired, a virtual day at the Capitol to give you all the logistics, how to get there, where to park, where to go, what you need to bring with you. We'll do all those logistics. I look for the date in the GAE Voices that just came out yesterday, and also in our In the Loop newsletter. So we're going to have a wrap up from President Crabtree, who's also going to ask you, if you're not already a pre-retired member or a retired member of GAE Retired, I'm putting the link in the chat of where you can get the application. So we'll let you close this out, President Crabtree.
Thank you, Tony. One thing that's been said all throughout this meeting, and probably the most important thing to be said, is stories. Legislators do not know how their legislation affects you. It can affect you positively, it can affect you negatively. Your stories tell it all. So it is important for us as educators to make legislation that is effective, and how it affects us all. So tell your stories to your legislators. You have more power than you could ever imagine. One person can move mountains. And GAE is a prime example. We have moved mountains. Even in these adversarial times, we move mountains. And it's because of members like you. And I want to personally thank you for allowing me to serve as your president of GAE Retired and all the support that you give me. And I want all of us to be the best we can be and do the best we can to make our country the best country on the earth and to support our children. And I want to thank you all for attending. You did an excellent job, Tony. Vivian and all the presenters, and Debbie, what can we say? We are a powerhouse. Let's continue to be this powerhouse. And everyone, have a great, great new year and have a great weekend. Thank you, Tony.
Bye-bye, everybody.